If you like, Mr. Stevens, I could bring in some more cuttings for you.
Thank you, Miss Kenton. But I regard this room as my private place of work, and I prefer to keep distractions to a minimum.
Would you call flowers a distraction, then, Mr. Stevens?
I appreciate your kindness, Miss Kenton, but I prefer to keep things as they are. Oh, and since you are here, there is a matter I wanted to mention to you, just a small matter. I happened to be walking past the kitchen yesterday morning, and I heard you calling to someone named William. May I ask who it was you were addressing by that name?
Why, Mr. Stevens, I should think I was addressing your father.
Oh.
There are no other Williams in this house, I take it?
True. May I ask you in future, Mrs. Kenton, to address my father as Mr. Stevens? If you are speaking of him to a third party, you may wish to call him Mr. Stevens Senior to distinguish him from myself. So I would be most grateful to you, Miss Kenton.
I don't quite understand what you're getting at, Mr. Stevens. I am the housekeeper in this house, and your father is the under-butler. In other houses, I was accustomed to address the under-servants by their Christian names.
Miss Kenton, if you would stop to think for a moment, you would realize that how inappropriate it is for one such as yourself to address as William someone such as my father.
Well, I'm sure, Mr. Stevens, it must have been very galling for your father to be called William by one such as myself.
Miss Kenton, all I'm saying is that my father is a person from whom, if you wish to be more observant, you may learn many things.
I'm most grateful for your advice, Mr. Stevens, but do, please, tell me just what marvellous things might I learn from your father?
I might point out that you're still often unsure of what goes where and which item is which.
I'm sure Mr. Stevens Senior is very good at his job. But I can assure you, Mr. Stevens, that I'm very good at mine.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. And now, if you will, please excuse me.
Miss Kenton? Oh, well. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, his lordship asked about the Jewish girls.
Elstra and Irma?
Yes, he wondered where they were. He said it was wrong to dismiss them. I thought you'd like to know because I remember you were as distressed as I was about it.
As you were? As I recall, you thought it was only right and proper that they should be sent packing.
Now, really, Miss Kenton, that is most unfair. Of course I was upset, very much so. I don't like to see that sort of thing happening in this house.
Well, I wish you'd told me so at the time. It would have helped me a great deal if I'd known you felt the same way as I did. Why? Why, Mr. Stevens? Why do you always have to hide what you feel? Lizzie, you finished the lavender bags?
Yes, Miss Kenton.
Good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I take my hat off to you, Miss Kenton. That girl has come along very well. Yes, you were right about it, and I was wrong.
Look at that smile on your face.
What smile?
That tells an interesting story in itself. Wouldn't you say so, Mr. Stevens?
What are you talking about? What story is that?
Well, she's a very pretty girl. What do you think?
Is she?
You don't like to have pretty girls on the staff, I've noticed. Might it be that our Mr. Stevens fears distraction? Can it be that our Mr. Stevens is flesh and blood, after all, and cannot trust himself?
You know what I'm doing, Miss Kenton? I'm placing my thoughts elsewhere while you chatter away.
Then why is that guilty smile still on your face?
Oh, it's not a guilty smile. Simply amused by the sheer nonsense you sometimes talk.
It is a guilty smile. You can hardly bear to look at her. That's why you didn't want to take her on. She was too pretty.
Well, you must be right, Miss Kenton. Always are.
What are you reading?
A book.
Yes, well, what sort of book?
It's a book, Miss Kenton. Book.
What's the book? Are you shy about your book?
No.
Is it? Is it racy?
Racy?
Are you reading a racy book?
Do you think racy books are to be found on his lordship's shelves?
What do I know? What is it? Let me see it. Let me see your book.
Please leave me alone, Miss Kenton.
Why won't you show me your book?
This is my private time. You're invading it.
Oh, is that so?
Yes,
I'm invading your private time, am I?
yes.
What's in that book? Come on, let me see. Or are you protecting me? Is that what you're doing? Would I be shocked? Would it ruin my character? Let me see it. It's not scandalous at all. It's just a sentimental old love story.
Yes. I read these books, any books, to develop my command and knowledge of the English language. I read to further my education, Miss Kenton. I really must ask you, please, not to disturb the few moments I have to myself.
People always cheer when they turn the lights on in the evening, every time.
I wonder why.
They do say that for a great many people, the evening's the best part of the day. The part they most look forward to.
Oh, that's so.
What do you most look forward to, Mr. Stevens?
Oh, getting back to Darlington Hall, principally, and straightening out our staff problems.
Well, you were always able to do that, Mr. Stevens. And you had quite a few to straighten out, as I remember.
Yes, always was work, work and more work. And will continue to be so, I have no doubt.
Mr. Stevens, don't you wait. That bus is always late. Come in out of the wet.
You must take good care of yourself, Mrs. Benn.
You too, Mr. Stevens. Promise me that.
Oh, yes, I promise. You must try to do all you can to make these years happy ones for yourself and for your husband. We may never meet again, Mrs. Benn. That is why I'm permitting myself to be so personal, if you will forgive me.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Oh, here it comes. It's on time for once. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, and thank you so very much for coming. It was so very kind of you. It was so nice to see you again.
It was a pleasure to see you again, Mrs. Benn. Goodbye. Take care.